Good evening. On behalf of the Kingston City School District and the Kingston City School District Board of Education, I want to thank you for participating today in this town hall meeting. We are recording this meeting and it will be posted on the Kingston City School District YouTube channel tomorrow morning. I have a brief presentation and we'll try to answer questions after that. Any ones that you submit, we'll do our best to get to. You can send the questions at any time. You don't have to wait till I'm done with the presentation. We'll probably not get to every question tonight, but we will be posting and all these questions on our website, and we will be holding more town hall meetings throughout the rest of the summer and into the fall. Question and answers from the meeting will be compiled into a running document that will be posted on the website later this week. And actually, the last two town hall meetings, those questions are posted. So you can find those on the reopening info tab on the left side of our website. At the top left side. So if you go to the reopening info tab, you can find the running list of questions that came from the last two town halls, and later in the week, you'll find the ones that come from tonight. As you all know, the Governor Cuomo, the State Education Department, and the Department of Health released guidelines for reopening schools. We've worked with these guidelines and we've formulated our plan for reopening and have submitted it as required. But we do have opportunities to make changes to this plan as we get more information and evaluate the plan. Although we've submitted our plan, we are continuing to research, speak with stakeholders, and look for opportunities to expand and improve. We're striving to do what's best for our students, faculty, and staff, and our community in this very difficult situation. Tonight, your questions and input are necessary and welcome, and many of these questions may not be able to be answered today, but we'll continue to work to answer everyone's questions and communicate with our community. As I have the last two town halls, I'd just like to start off with kind of the state of COVID-19 in Ulster County and in Kingston City School District. And as you can see, we look at the county as a whole. There are 161 active cases in Ulster County. So that's less than a 1% of active cases in Ulster County. And if you look at the Kingston City School District attendance areas, that number is down from the last time we met. It's also around 32 active cases in the Kingston City School District. Without going through each slide of the reopening plan, which is available on our website, and the web address is right here on this PowerPoint. The plan is a hybrid plan with K through 6 students in person. Our K through 2 students would stay in their home schools. Our third and fourth graders will move to their feeder middle schools, and our 5th and 6th graders will be attending at Kingston High School. Our 7 through 12 students will be working remotely on online learning with live classes taught via Teams. Some of the concerns, we would get a lot of questions both here at the town halls, but also just in emails and in conversations with people around. A lot of the concerns are around technology and connectivity. And we share that concern, and we're working hard to make sure we have everything we need for our students who are remote, or if it's any time during this plan we are forced to go fully remote. The district will make computer devices, Chromebooks, available to all students who need them. We've ordered Wi-Fi hotspots for households without internet coverage. The district and schools, we're going to communicate with our families to assess needs. Again, and lastly, we still have a couple of hundred of our Chromebooks are still in the hands of our students from spring semester, and we're asking if you have one of those Chromebooks, or if your child has one of those Chromebooks, please bring them. You can bring them to any one of our schools to drop them off. We need to sanitize them, upgrade them, and repair if there is any damage. So we ask that you please return the Chromebooks if you still have it. Another question that's come up a lot is why. So why have we decided to go with this model? And we do have some real rationale. Looking at public health data, early research suggests that younger children are less likely to transmit and be symptomatic of the virus, keeping our teachers and students safer. Keeping a constant group of students in school minimizes the contact networks. So as opposed to staggered schedules, where it puts children in daycare and other places, resulting in more contacts each week, bringing them in and out of school, in and out of home, in and out of the other areas of contact. From a curriculum and pedagogical data, younger students experience a disproportionate learning loss by missing school. Socialization is disproportionately larger part of education in younger grades than it is in upper grades, and the disparities in learning during early years created by different access to resources will be more difficult for the school district to overcome. And the research tells us that it will last longer into the future. And there are practical considerations. Our youngest students don't operate teams as well as our older students, and the other learning tools that we use are not as accessible to our younger students. So our older students are more tech savvy, they're more able to be self-motivated, and they're able to interact both socially and academically using online platforms. Lastly, again, continuing kind of what I said at the beginning of this presentation, collaboration, cooperation, and communication and safety. Those are the things we're looking for. We need to collaborate with our community and our teachers. We need cooperation, and we need to make sure we continue to communicate, which is one of the goals of having these town halls. As many people probably know, I think we were in conversations with the Kingston Teachers Federation to talk about the safety of our reopening plan. We do have multiple safety approaches in place. We put all the procedures and protocols that are required in our reopening plan by the State Education Department and the Department of Health. And we continue to work with the Ulster Department of Health to ensure that we're in compliance. That being said, there still are concerns, and we understand that, and we'll be working with Kingston Teachers Federation to make decisions on what is the best way to come back. Is it safe to come back? Are we ready to reopen our schools? So those are conversations that are ongoing, and we will again continue to work with our stakeholders, continue to cooperate and collaborate and communicate with our teachers, and do what's best for everyone. One last point, tomorrow, we believe, Governor Cuomo will make an announcement whether or not we're even allowed to open schools in New York State. So we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say tomorrow, which again could have an impact on everything we say here tonight. And now we have time for questions. I don't have the questions on my screen.
Question mark comment. I know it's really not on the screen.
Okay, we're experiencing technical difficulties, but we're going to try to overcome that.
What is the plan for families who are choosing to stick with remote learning? If teacher resources are spread thin due to reduced class sizes, how can they also provide adequate instruction for remote learning students?
That's an excellent question, and part of our planning is working with our teachers, whether it has to be for us to recruit some of our substitute teachers to help out, or if we have teachers who are not able to come to work due to medical reasons, or we'll be assigning them to work with our students who are staying home learning remote.
If and piggybacking on that, if a family opts for remote learning and later wishes to have their students return to in-person class instruction, how will that be accommodated? Will that be accommodated?
Yes, that will be accommodated. On-ramps and off-ramps are part of our plan. Right now, in this plan with K through 6, if we have a student who at the beginning of the school year decides not to come to school, but then a couple weeks in, the parent decides, okay, I think it's time for us to go back, and we feel it's safe and things are going well, we will be prepared to have those students in. Right now, we're preparing as if every K through 6 student who is eligible to come to school in person will be there. So we're planning that way. We're planning that way for our supplies, our desks, our rooms, our measuring, planning that way. We're also planning that if every student who is eligible for transportation decides to take transportation, we will have the capacity to do that. So if some students choose not to come in, their space is still there. Their spot is still there on their bus. Their place is still there in their classroom if they choose to come to school at a later time. Okay. I did find the Q&A, but now it's just loading it.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, we'll go to this one. How will related services be provided for K through 6 students and self-contained classrooms K through 12?
Well, those students will be attending school, so those students will be learning in person. So our staff will be there to provide the related services as required in their individual education plan.
Will the school share contact tracing data with the CDC?
We don't do contact tracing. That's not the school district's responsibility. We hand that over to the people who know what they're doing about that, and that's our Department of Health, and they will take care of all the contact tracing. So, if we have a situation where we need the Department of Health to know that we've had a case or a potential case, they will do the testing is the responsibility of the Department of Health, and as well as the contact tracing.
Transportation question. How will transportation work? This parent will have a second and third grader that will be split. Will there be staggered arrival and dismissal times to allow parents to be in two separate places? Yeah.
Yes, there will be staggered arrival and dismissal times. Actually, we're going to need to have staggered arrival and dismissal times because of the fewer number of students we're able to put on a bus. It's going to require us to have more buses on the road with fewer students in them. So we can't transport to two different grade level or grade spans at a time. So we will be doing probably 3 different arrivals and 3 different dismissals for the three grade spans that we're serving.
Okay. And if we go back to virtual learning, what will TAs be doing?
TAs will, if we go back to remote learning full time, our TAs are going to be supporting our teachers with instruction. We envision if we go back to remotely and being very different from spring where everyone was supposed to be at home, all of us were asked to stay home. In this situation, if we go fully remote, our expectation is our teachers and our teachers' assistants are in their school buildings, working from their classrooms, using the technology we have here to ensure that we have effective and kind of complete education and classes for our students, so that everyone will have work to do, and that will be towards supporting students in the remote model.
And how will support services like reading, OT, PT, speech be provided to students? Will students receive these services virtually, or will those teachers be required to go in and out of several different classrooms?
Well, in the remote world, obviously they would be done remotely and online. Our plan at this point is to have them. We haven't completely mapped that out yet, but I think a push-in model would be more likely for them to work one-on-one with students, but not continue to pull students out and put them into smaller places. We're avoiding small rooms, small spaces within the school building. So, our plan right now is more of a push-in model for our reading services.
Will voice classes be an option for online learning?
Yes, voice lessons will continue to be an option for online learning, for sure.
Probably choir and all those voice. Yeah. Hopefully. Please tell us about the outreach regarding social distancing, mandatory masking, and other new safety policies that the district will be providing to families who do not speak or read English or who may not speak or read Spanish either.
Our responsibility to communicate any of the information we have is to identify what languages our parents and our students is their native language and what they need, with how they need to be communicated with. So we have to continue to identify that. For the most part, for us, it's been Spanish, but we need to kind of dive in and see what are other areas and other languages that we need to translate not only our training around safety procedures, but also any information coming from the school district. So I think that's a little more in-depth research from us here to make sure we're communicating with everyone in a way that they can understand.
Scheduling, when would schedules come out?
Our high school schedules, this is a high school question, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. I'm assuming our high school schedules will come out in the latter part of August. I don't foresee whether we're, in a remote model, your schedule being any different than it was going to be during your regular school. We were an in-person school, but I think Mr. DeSico and his team are working on that, and I'm assuming you'll have them by later in August. According
to the plan, visitors to the school will be asked, Have you experienced any symptoms of COVID-19 in the past 14 days? Will this question include a specific list of symptoms to choose from? Not everyone has been following COVID-19 developments closely and may not know what symptoms are currently associated with the virus.
Our people in the buildings are going to be trained on how to, how to question visitors coming, how to take temperatures, and all the things that we need to do to have people come through the door. So we're working on that with all of our people to make sure that training happens. But more importantly, we are really encouraging everyone, unless you absolutely have to come to our school buildings, please don't. We're not going to be just randomly having visitors in the building. We're not going to be having guest speakers. We're not going to be having assemblies. We're not going to be having field trips. It'll be a very different school year, a very different school experience. But unless there is an emergency, we really are asking parents and visitors to please stay away from our buildings. Let us go through the school day unless it is an absolute emergency.
How and when will we be able to request online only as our option for elementary age students, the K through 6 who will be going to school?
Within the next couple of weeks.
And how often will students and staff attending in-person learning be tested for COVID-19?
As I said before, we don't do testing. If there is someone who thinks they've been exposed or has symptoms of COVID-19 and they feel they need to be tested, we will refer them to either to their general practitioner or refer them to the Department of Health to get tested. So the school district, I think that's going to be an important piece of information because there's some conflicting information out there. There's a lot of conflicting information, but on this topic, testing, school districts do not conduct COVID-19 tests. We are not equipped for that. We are not licensed for that. And actually, even in our guidance from the State Education Department of Health directs us that we do not do that. That is the job of the Department of Health and healthcare providers.
What will the administrative structure look like for the 3rd and 4th graders at Miller and Bailey? Will the middle school principal now be in charge of our children? Will the regular middle school support staff now be our support staff too, the nurses, social workers, etc.?
Yes, pretty much that would be the administrative staff, the school nurses, those people would be, and the clerical help in the office managers, they will stay in their buildings. So really the building principal will be in charge of the management of the building, but the principal, the homeschool principal, will also be working with teachers and with students within that building. So we'll have, during this time, and we talked about this in our administrative team, and I've often said this is an all hands on deck approach. So during this time, whoever can cover buildings for elementary school principals who need to get out to a middle school where their students are, or the high school, we're gonna let them get there and find a way. And again, they'll be evaluating and working with their teachers, and they'll be visiting with their students. But the management of the building itself will remain the building principal's responsibility.
When will we know if special ed students are in person or virtual? When?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, this plan has special education students in person. Again, continuing to work, waiting for the governor, continuing to work with safety concerns of our faculty and staff. If we move forward in this plan, students with disabilities will be attending in person.
Are families able to change their mind, choosing between in-school and remote instruction once school has begun?
Yes. Similar question from earlier. We are developing on-ramps and off-ramps, is what we're calling them, for students who decide I'm not comfortable, I need to leave, or students who are coming in, who stayed home at the beginning and then decide they want to come. Parents decide they want them to come to school. So we're developing on-ramps and off-ramps, and we are going to be prepared to transport every student who needs transportation and is eligible for transportation, and every student who is eligible for in-person instruction. There is a desk for that student in this model.
Okay. A sports question: will there be modified sports? Any sports?
I don't know. That's one of the questions that I have to say I don't know about. Later in September, obviously the New York State High School Athletic Association has delayed the fall sports season till later in September. I believe it's September 21st or 27th, one of those two. to September 21st. So, at that time, they're going to reassess and make some decisions on what they're going to do with sports. So I don't know if there will be fall sports at all. So I don't know if at any level, modified, JV, varsity, I don't know, and we don't know what will happen with winter sports either. As soon as we know, we will make sure that we get that information out to everyone, though, because I know our athletes are concerned.
And this is a question about recess time for children who would go to Miller or Bailey. So is there a playground at Miller? And if not, could they use Crosby's? If they won't have access to a playground, what's the plan to provide them with play accessories at recess time?
Yeah, we're have to work on that with our building level principals and come up with plans for recess. Obviously all of our students need to get out of the building and have an opportunity to kind of have recess. So we're going to work with all of our building principals to see how we can arrange to make sure that happens and that it's appropriate for the age group regardless of the building.
And how would classes like resource room, art, gym work for high school distance learning or 7 through 12 distance learning?
I'm sorry, can you read that?
How would classes like resource room, art, and gym work for high school distance learning, but really it's 7 through 12?
Yeah, our 7th, this is going to be the work that we do over the next several weeks with our teachers to develop curriculum and lessons in every area for students to participate remotely. So some of our students got a little kind of experience of this in the spring. It's a matter of developing that curriculum, that online remote curriculum, and being able to present it for our students. So pretty much everything that's being offered during the school year is going to be offered remotely. So it'll be a different way of getting the information or be involved in the activity, but it will be there.
Okay. What would the student to teacher ratio be for online classes, and would these classes stay with the same makeup and schedule when they transition back to school buildings?
Yeah, the online schedule would really reflect more of a regular school day. So if a teacher has a 22 to 25 student class in 9th grade English, that's how many students will be on their remote class. So unlike we don't need to socially distance online remotely. So we don't need to keep our class sizes, which at the in school classes will be anywhere between 12 and 15, depending on the size of the room. Some of our rooms we could socially distance for more than 15. So as we're taping off the desks and mapping out the room, mapping out the floors, fewer students obviously will be in the caseloads in the classrooms for our elementary in person, but as far as the secondary, it'd be really the same class size that you would have if you were present in the building during a regular school year pre-COVID-19.
And can you please clarify, the plan says that kids do not have to wear masks during instructional time, and what does that mean? Is that while they're sitting in the class learning?
And this is a good question, and this is a little bit of there's a lot of discussion around this question. So, our plan currently says students will be wearing masks when they cannot socially distance. The classroom will be socially distanced for the students. So in their desk, they will be socially distanced. So our plan, states that they will not have to wear their mask during instruction. We've received new guidance and new information that says maybe we should reconsider that. So we are doing that. We're going to work with, question our Department of Health as well as our school medical director to see what how they think we should operate around that. Again, the guidance initially said if they're socially distanced, the students don't have to wear masks. But we're hearing different stories now, so we're trying to do what's best for our students, what's safest. So we're going to consult with the Department of Health and consult with our school medical director.
Will the teacher for remote instruction come from the student's home school?
If it's an elementary student, whose family chooses not to participate in online or in-person instruction, the answer is no. It most likely will not be your classroom teacher that you would expect from your home school. It will be whoever we can pair up with a group of students that are home not learning in person. At the high school level, your remote teacher is going to be your remote teacher. And at the middle school level, again, that we believe that will be the case as well. So whoever your teacher was going to be in September, if you were in person, will be your teacher sitting in front of you remotely.
Okay. Yeah, if the district eventually goes full remote, will teachers be required to work from school? And would remote instruction include live teaching? So if the district goes fully remote, will the teachers be required to work from school? So from their classroom, I think, is what?
I liked it better when I could read the question. Could you repeat that for me one more time?
If the district goes fully remote, will teachers be required to work from school, so from their classroom? And then the second part, will remote instruction schedule include live teaching? So
yes. Okay. Got it. Thank you. If we go completely remote, our plan at this point, and again, we're going to have conversations with our teachers about this, and conversation with our teachers' assistants, and conversations with everyone who's involved. But our plan right now would be, if we go fully remote, that teachers will come to the school building, they will work from their classrooms, they will teach live lessons to their students remotely through the Teams platform.
With social distancing, what happens if there is a lockdown in schools?
We actually have guidance around that. There has been, our lockdown procedures, our lockdown drills. We are still responsible to conduct all of the same drills we were responsible to conduct during the regular school year. So we still have to have fire drills, but we have to ensure that there is social distancing in the fire drills. We still have to have lockdown drills, but we have to ensure that we have social distance during lockdown drills. The way we'll conduct lockdown drills is going to be very different. In the past, a lockdown drill, students stood against the wall, grouped close together. In this time, we're going to present lockdown drills, or prepare for lockdown drills and administer lockdown drills. Students will stay in their desks. We will pull the shades, students will stay in their desks, and we'll conduct the drill in that way. So, I mean, obviously in a real situation, probably the least of our concerns is going to be, being contagious. We put on our masks and we do what we need to do to make sure everyone's safe. But in the drill situation, we'll be, making sure that we are safe as far as, contagious and COVID-19 is concerned.
Will teachers that are typically split between buildings continue to travel to more than one building, or will they be limited to only one building to reduce the number of people they come into contact with?
We're going to do our best to keep from having traveling teachers. That's something we don't want to do for that very reason. So we're doing our best to schedule it. Obviously, our human resources may require us to do that in limited situations, but we're hoping to avoid it as much as possible.
Okay. Even though Ulster County is low in cases, the rest of the country is going up, because we can't make the same mistake that they did by ignoring the hotspots. Wouldn't it be wise to see that the virus is far from gone and stay closed until well after flu season?
That's one of those questions, and I think that's one of the things that we continue to talk about with our teachers, and have these town halls so we can hear people's concerns and answer their questions. I think we all see what's going on around the country. We see what we've done here in New York, and how much progress we've made here, even down into New York City and downstate. So knowing that we're low, most areas above us and to the west of us have really gone down, and even listed downstate's gone down. But it is true. I mean, as we reopen things, the possibility of that spikes happening is there. We've done everything we can to follow the recommendations and meet the requirements of the State Education Department, Department of Health. Is that foolproof? No, it's really not, and we know that. And that's why we continue our conversation with the Board of Education, with our teachers, and with all of you, to make a decision that is best and really protects the safety and the health of our students.
And who will ensure that students keep 6 feet apart at all times? Will there be special staff hired to ensure social distancing and proper mask usage?
Well, really, we don't anticipate having mask police or social distancing police in the hallways. Obviously, we're going to provide, encouragement and have our faculty and staff work with students on the importance of this. And I think we're really going to take an education approach and really ask for help from home to reinforce this, the wearing of the mask and the understanding of how, it's not just about you. Really, the idea of a community is taking care of yourself and taking care of the people around you. So, and in a school community, we want to take care of ourselves and the people around us. So wearing a mask and staying socially distanced is going to be important. And again, we really ask for parents to help us with this at home, and we're going to, continue to encourage and reinforce it here, as well as, conduct the required trainings and workshops on hand washing, on wet mask wearing, on social distancing, and all the things that we need to do around the hygiene kind of things about, limiting the contagious spread.
If choosing in-person instruction, will extracurricular classes or after school really, such as band, chess, etc., still take place?
Right now, our plan is to have nothing happening after school, pretty much. We're going to be going to school, students will come to school, students will go home. But that can change over time as we see progress, or it could go in the other direction. So right now, our plan is we will not be having extracurricular after school. We will not be having sports, all those things. So if you're at home, learning remotely, or you're in school, those options will not be there, at least for the first part of the year.
And how will students in remote instruction be graded?
Students in remote instruction will be graded the same way students in person will be graded. So, I mean, there's two different questions there, I think. The first one is, if this is someone who is a K-6 student and who has the option to come to school in person, but chooses to stay home and learns remotely, the answer is going to be the same in either situation. They'll be graded the same way they were graded if they were in the classroom. Students at the high school, we had some grading policy changes at the end of last year, but we're working to go back to create a grading policy that really mirrors what we would usually do during the school year. We haven't finished that yet. I know our curriculum department, our teaching and learning department, and the high school are working on, and middle school are working on that, but it's going to be very close to what it would look like if you were in in-person instruction.
We now know that the virus is airborne. How are the students supposed to eat lunch in school safely?
Well, I think it's two different things there that we're doing. First of all, social distancing is a big part of that. So we're still, even when they're eating lunch, they're social distanced. So, obviously you can't eat lunch with your mask on, so they take their masks off and eat their lunch and keeps those social distancing. The second is the air exchange that we've talked about. So, we have modern, up-to-date heating and ventilation systems that can control the intake of outside air and increase the air exchange to ensure a constant exchange of air in the classrooms and in the building. So we have control of that. We can turn it down, we can turn it up. Obviously, in this situation, we will be turning it up. We're also going to be, encouraging our teachers when possible to keep windows open. And we'll do the same in our cafeterias. When we're using the cafeterias, again, we can't put all of our students in the cafeteria, so there'll probably be, building by building, our principals will make that decision, but there'll probably be a rotation through cafeterias and exchange from cafeterias and eating in the classroom. So air exchange is important, and social distancing. That's our strategy around that.
When do you expect the older students to resume in-class learning?
Hopefully as soon as possible. We don't know. I can't control that. I think we'll be continuing to watch. If we stay at the levels we are or go down, I think that's going to open more things, and we're going to continue to look for guidance from the State Education Department and Department of Health. Right now we are required. The requirements that we have to follow as far as bringing kids into school, bringing students into school, dictates what we can do. At 6 feet apart, we can only put so many students in buildings. So a building like Kingston High School that can hold 2,000 students with 6 feet apart, we know can only hold just about 1,000, a little more than 1,000 students. So you're really looking at half of the students that could be in there. So if those restrictions are decreased, if we can social distancing isn't something we have to continue to adhere to, we can increase the number of students who come into school buildings. But that remains to be seen. So I think we just have to kind of keep moving forward and listen for new information and guidance from Department of Health and the State Education Department. And that's when we'll be able to make decisions around bringing back students to school in a normal way.
If individual pre-K through 6th classes must quarantine due to possible COVID-19 exposure, will classes move to remote learning for 2 weeks? What will that look like?
Yes. If we have a situation where our class has to be quarantined for 2 weeks, or once we know that we have a student or a teacher in a classroom that is tested positive for COVID-19 or has been exposed to COVID-19, we will alert the Department of Health. We will close the classroom. We'll send the students home. The Department of Health will start the contact tracing procedures and testing procedures. We'll clean and disinfect the room. The teacher will then begin teaching online to that class for the time that they are out. Again, we're hoping that won't be a full 14 days and that we can move quickly through that process. But yes, it would be online for 14 days with that same teacher and those same students.
I would really like to hear the district's response to the statement from the teachers union. If teachers don't feel safe, I am concerned. Is there a way you can hear the union's concerns and try to address them so everyone feels okay about coming back?
That's exactly what we're doing. We are working with our teachers union. I meet with the president of the teachers union pretty much, it seems like pretty much every day all summer long. And we're talking about the areas of concern and what can we do about those areas of concern? Can we do things better? I think one of my concerns, and I believe this is the same concern of our teachers, is there are things we control and there's things we don't control. So, we can control the air exchange. We can control having clean air filters. We can control, how many students we put in the classroom. We can control taking students' temperatures when they come into the building and making sure workers have their, employees and teachers and faculty have their temperatures taken. But there are other things that we can't control. We can't control necessarily things like students maybe on a school bus who decide not to wear a mask, or who horseplay at the school at the bus stop, or don't know that they have been exposed or that they have COVID-19 because they don't have any symptoms and come into a school building. So, there's things we can control and there's things we can't. So, it's that way now, it's that way in life, but we're doing our best to control what we control. And if we can address more of the concerns of our teachers, our faculty and staff, then maybe that is a situation that we can be more comfortable coming back into the buildings. But again, we recognize the concerns of our teachers. We appreciate that concern, and we're doing our best to work with them to do what's best for everyone.
Even if full-time outdoor classrooms are logistically difficult, is the district encouraging or requiring outdoor lunch, outdoor recess, outdoor PE break times? It seems smart to keep our kids outdoors as much as possible, especially for mask breaks.
Well, definitely for mask breaks, I think that's something that can, that's really a good idea. PE is always, we take PE outside in the fall and the spring when the weather is okay. I would leave it, as far as lunch is concerned, I would leave that between the school food service people and our building principals. If they felt it was appropriate and they could do that, that would be fine. We're avoiding teaching outside for several reasons. To have tents and things like that outside require a lot of approvals, require drainage, technology, electricity, all those kind of things. And like I said, our school buildings we've populated our school buildings in a way that we can socially distance, that we are below 50% of the maximum, that we have the proper air exchange and the proper PPE in place for all of our students and our faculty. We spent a lot of time in education working on safety plans that really bring our students into the building, not send them out of the building. So when there's we can meet the requirements inside the building. If individual principals see opportunities and work with teachers to do some things outside, that's great. We're not going to discourage that, but it's not going to be a regular part of our program.
The next is a statement. I think you are doing an amazing job, Dr. Padalino. Thank you for all your hard work, and I wish that person left their name, but it's an anonymous person.
That was my mother.
Okay. Question. You stated last night that it would be easier to go from online to in-person than the opposite. Why not do that first then?
Well, we're still considering that. I think that is part of the conversation that I've been talking about for the last few questions, conversations with our teachers, with our school board. That still is a possibility. If we're feeling very confident that our numbers would stay down, that our infection rate would stay down, and our active cases would continue to decline. I think going from getting students into the school buildings as soon as possible would be effective. But we don't know that. This is one of the problems with this whole situation. There's a lot of things we don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty around it. So this is still part of the conversation. We have a plan to come back into school. We're doing our best to meet we've done our best to meet the guidelines and the safety requirements to do that. But the conversation is still open on whether or not we are actually going to walk in the doors. And as I said at the beginning, the governor could change all that tomorrow also. So we're just waiting to see that.
Will a survey be sent out to staff?
I guess the question is what type of survey?
Yeah.
I guess that's pretty broad question. So if they're asking the survey be sent out to staff, whether or not you want to come to work, that you feel comfortable, or they coming work, or if you think it's what we should be doing here, I think that is the place of your bargaining unit. That's the place of the teachers union or your SP unit or whatever union you're part of to express your concerns and your opinions to the leaders in those organizations, and they express them. They will express them to myself, and I'll express them to the Board of Education. So, it's not so much a survey as it is using the people that you have and the bargaining you have to do what they're supposed to, which is express your concerns and bring your opinions forward.
Will Graves continue the Healthy Kids Aftercare program?
As of right now, I can't answer that question. We are most likely not going to have after-school programs going on. I know the Healthy Kids program has been around with us, and it's a very good program. So we're going to, at least for the beginning, I think we're going to keep away from after-school programs. But we will continue to try to move forward and hopefully expand where we can do them a little later.
Will there be a solid virtual learning model outlined before parents need to make a decision on whether we want to have child in school or at home, especially for younger kindergarten age group?
We're working on that right now to make sure that the parents are very aware of what an online program would look like for their students, if they're learning remotely, so they can make that decision. We're working on that right now. So yes.
I heard that the plan includes kids taking off their masks inside if they're 6 feet apart. This does not seem to be safe or smart. If 15 kids are all breathing all day, even 6 feet apart in a closed room, that does not seem safe. I know it's miserable, but it seems so much safer for the kids to have their masks on the whole time, except when they go outside.
Yeah, a similar question was asked earlier, and we're still, exploring that. Our plan does say, I will say again, our plan does say that as long as there's social distancing, the students do not have to wear the masks. But we've been given new information recently, so we're checking back with the Department of Health and with our school medical director to get their take on the latest. As everyone probably knows, just from watching TV and reading the newspapers, we have different information every day about this virus and about different ways to work within the situation we're in. So we get that too. Every day we get something new. When we make a plan to go in a certain direction, the next day we find out that's the wrong direction and we have to change course. So we continue to lean on the experts to give us the best advice, and we'll follow their directives. And if things change, we'll change and follow the directives that the newest research tells us.
Can you please share your plan for the 3S program at GW? How can we help you by preparing our kids for what to expect? Thanks.
I'm sorry, could you read that again?
Can you please share your plan for the threes? Oh, excuse me. The threes program at GW. How can we help you by preparing our kids for what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, that planning will come through, Ms. Lobianco and Dr. Felicello. They're working to make sure that we're as, it feels as normal as possible in every one of our school buildings, including our Montessori, including GW and our Montessori building. So that's a question you can reach out to Ms. Lobianco, and she can tell you where she is in the planning with this, and also on how you can assist to help out.
Will virtual learning be an option for the entire school year? Will the current setup with elementary in-person only remain the plan throughout the entire school year, or will these stop being options if there's a vaccine partway through the academic year?
Well, I think that's a really good question. I don't know is the answer to that. Even if there were a vaccine halfway through the year, getting that vaccine to everyone and making sure everyone's getting their vaccinations, those kind of things. So I mean, we're going to be in a little bit of have to be flexible for a while to make some decisions based on data, based on what we're hearing from the health experts, and based on if there is a vaccine, what we can do. So I really don't have a good answer for that. We're planning as if we will be coming back to school full time at some point during the school year, and we're hopeful, and I know you're all hopeful, and I know our students are hopeful, but we have to be flexible and again follow the directives that we get from our Department of Health and make moves when we need to. But I can't really answer when or how long this would go on.
What is the plan to ensure that students who qualify for free or reduced price meals will have unfettered access to these meals?
Yeah, we're working on a plan right now to make sure that we do a better job with our food service. I mean, we got it was a little bit blindsided in the spring, having to shift from what is basically we're a cafeteria style food service. We're not a takeout or a delivery service. So we did our best to make food available to students in approximation to their homes, but we're working now to see what we need to do going forward to improve that distribution, work with community partners to improve that distribution, and make sure that all of our students who have free reduced lunch and all of our students period have access to food. So that's a big part of our plan. It's a big part of our conversation, especially if we decide to go full-time remote for a period of time at the beginning of the year.
Will immune-compromised families still have the support of distance learning from the home schools?
Yes. Well, I should go back to that was two questions in one thing. So, as far as where that support, that instructional support could come from, it is possible that a student who's a K-6 student is home learning remotely, that they may be having a teacher from a different school. That's not necessarily from the homeschool, but we are doing everything we can to make sure we have enough faculty and staff to work with our students who are home, especially our students who are immune compromised and have medical reasons to be home from school.
Is the school district granting special permissions to student yet so sibling are in school together? My son is going to first and daughter going into kindergarten, so would they be together? Special permissions to students, so siblings would be in the same school together.
Right. We're looking at all the special permissions that have been requested so far this year. So we're looking at that again. That's a tricky question right now, considering how we have to operate each building. But we've always done our best to keep siblings together in a special permission situation. So if I'm hearing that question correctly, there's a first grader who is on special permission in a school and a kindergartner who's coming in. So, and special permission was requested for the kindergartner as well. So we do our best to make sure we don't split up students. So, I think if you have a question about whether or not you will receive it and you've applied for it, you can call Mr. Verge's office and he handles special permission.
How are you providing teachers with the time in August to plan for these unprecedented teaching and learning conditions?
Well, that's, we're hoping to start sooner with, voluntary, things that we can send out and give people updates. But we have 3 superintendent's conference days and 1 teacher preparation day prior to Labor Day for our teachers to come in and for us to get as much to them as we possibly can in those 4 days, so they are ready to start up in, the next week, the day after Labor Day. This is going to be constant, though. It's going to be throughout the year. It's going to be professional development that we probably deliver electronically and remotely to our teachers, and it's going to be, as much as it's going to be professional development, it's going to be a collaboration and really sitting down with teachers and our administrators, sitting down and say, okay, what's working, what's not working, what do we need to change? So I think we're going to be not necessarily so much professional development as much as it's going to be professional sharing of best practices so we can get things right.
This is a question from a student. Is it possible to move significant events in the KHS calendar, like homecoming, or other events back in the winter or spring in anticipation that there will be a vaccine or some other end to the pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. And I know even when they talked about sports, some people were talking about moving sports from that were canceled in the fall into the winter and the spring. So I think to move homecoming into the spring would be a great idea. Any of those significant events, so students were able to have those events, even if they weren't in the traditional time of year. So I think that's a great idea. I think that's something to work with the high school administration to make happen.
With all the cuts in state funding, is it fiscally responsible to run with this hybrid opening?
Yeah, that's a good question. The cuts in state funding are going to continue, and they're going to be throughout the year, in my opinion, and I think that's going to play out. I'm just going to play it that it's going to be accurate. There's a significant increase in cost in running these plans, but there's also a significant cost to having a remote program, both in instructional time and students' lives, and and then also financially. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, our school district is not funded properly during regular times. So at this point, with our not being funded properly and a reduction in our aid from the state, it's going to be a struggle. But we have 6,500 students that need education, and we're going to do everything we can to get it to them. And that's what we do year in and year out, and we continue to do that.
The American Federation of Teachers doesn't consider in-person school to be safe unless fewer than 5% of COVID-19 tests in the area are positive. Why is the rate that triggers school closures 9%?
Yeah, that's set at the governor's office and the State Department of Health. I didn't have anything to do with that, and I really don't have an answer for that question. I mean, it's a reasonable question. That's the one positive thing I could say is we're well below that rate here in Ulster County of less than 1%. So, that's a good thing. That can change at any time. We all know that just from the last 4 months. But yeah, I don't have any say in that. That comes right out of the state.
Will we be starting off the school year with the curriculum from March or going ahead with the upcoming grades curriculum?
I think the first few weeks are going to be a lot of weeks of working on socialization with students, getting students used to the new normal that we have in our schools, the students that are here in person, and working with our students to assess where they are, what regression occurred in their learning over the summer and prior to the summer, in the spring with the online learning, to really make some decisions at the teacher level. Our teachers will know, although they know how to assess our students, and they know how to make up for lost time and lost learning. So they'll be, assessing that, looking at where the deficiencies are, and really doing their best to reteach and move our students forward. So, a little of both. Some students will be ready to jump right into the next grade's work. Other students will need a little more support. So that's going to be, one of our teachers' greatest challenges. But they do that every year. So it's going to be a little different, and a little harder this year. But we're confident that they can make that happen.
What is the plan for pre-K and GW? Will it be integrated with kindergarten as it has been in the Montessori model, like mixed age classes for ages 3 to 5?
Yes. The Montessori model with the mixed age classes will stay the same. Obviously, they'll be split to make sure we have our social distancing, but they will not be split by age. We'll continue the multi-age groupings in really keeping with the philosophy of Montessori.
Will all assignments for grades 7 to 12 kids be assigned in one place on Teams, or will we have to hunt in many different places to find them so that as a responsible parent we can follow up on what they have to do as we had to do this spring?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. I've had that question before of being able to maneuver within teams, being able to know where everything is in one spot instead of exactly the word you used is perfect, is hunt. So I've been working both with our teaching and learning department and our tech department to make sure we know all of the upgrades in teams and that we have them available and that we understand, and parents and students will understand how to use them, and and B, making sure that if there is something else we need to do to make that happen, that we get ourselves together and do it. But I know there's been a lot of upgrades and a lot of improvements on Teams over the summer as they try to get ready, because I think Microsoft knew this was coming and they're readjusting and adapting themselves to education platforms. So a lot of new things coming out, and finding the easiest ways for students and parents to find their students' work is really important for us. So I'm working with my teaching and learning department and my tech department to make sure we have the right platform and make sure that parents and students understand how to use the platform.
As of August, how much money has not been provided to the district from the state, and how will less funds impact our district?
As of when?
August.
Okay, as of now, right now, well, the way the school district is funded and the way our aid comes in, it comes in at certain times of the year. So our fiscal year, unlike the state that starts in April, our fiscal year starts on July 1st. So our first, aid payment for this year is, our next aid payment for this year would come in August. It is indicated to us that aid payment, that one aid payment will be decreased by 20%. So, we're concerned about that, obviously. It's being called a hold on the aid, not a decrease. So hopefully later in the year, things turn around, tax collections go up, those kind of things, and we get, and that money comes available, that hold will be taken off and that money will be given to us. But as of right now, we have to assume that's not coming back.
Do we have the capability of transporting the amount of students to the different schools, being that there's a limit of seating on buses?
Yes, we do have, it's going to be challenging. There's no doubt. Transportation is one of the most challenging parts of this plan. It's going to be challenged, but we have the bus capacity, and keeping the socially distance on the bus, because we're transporting fewer students, but we still have the same number of buses with fewer students on them. It almost works out. So we can still, we are confident that we'll be able to get all of our students to school, and then we have the bus capacity to do that. Driver capacity, that's going to be something we're going to have to, hope continues. There was a bus driver shortage prior to this state of emergency. So, we're working with our bus contractors to see where we are and how we can move forward. But right now, as far as the number of buses and the number of students who need transportation, we can do it.
Do you know if there's a plan for in-person PSAT testing?
I do not know that. I had the same question earlier this week about SATs. So right now, we don't have that answer. As soon as we have it, I know it's very important to a lot of students right now. As soon as we have that answer, we will get that to you. We'll get that out there.
Okay, we have time for one more. Okay. How much of the day do you actually expect the students will be learning between busing, temperature checks, lunch, specials, and dismissal?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. I mean, those are things we think about. How much time is it going to take us to get students through the doors, because we have to take everyone's temperature? How much time is it going to take us to get students certain places in the building, because we can only move a certain number of students at a time? So there's a lot of different questions. The bus runs could be longer because we are changing the way we're bringing our students to schools. So a lot of those things we're thinking about. Hand washing before and after lunch, those kind of things that we have to do. And even if you take away instructional time for some of the training we need to do about hand washing, mask wearing, social distancing. So, the day, obviously is not going to be as long as far as instruction, and there'll be a lot more, many more procedures going on. But that's a concern, and we're going to do our best to mitigate that. But that's just part of how it is right now. We have to do those things. We're going to do those things. It will eat into our instructional time. That is absolutely, a fact. But we'll do our best to minimize that. Okay. Once again, I want to thank everyone for participating this evening. And if you had questions that you posted that weren't answered, we're going to get them up on our website as quickly as we can, and they're up in the reopening tab on the upper left-hand side of our website. You just click that, and all of our reopening information is right there under that tab. Keep your eyes open later on or earlier next week for our next scheduled town hall, and I hope you all can be well and look forward to speaking to you again next week.